Hey folks, and welcome to Truck King. Today we're going to talk about the fuel economy on that truck right there. That is the Ford F-250 Tremor Lariat fit with the 7.3 liter gasoline V8. So in this video we're going to go for a long drive, see how much fuel that thing burns, and we'll talk about how it goes down the road. Make sure you stay tuned. Okay folks, let's get this fuel economy test underway. So as you saw, we just filled up the truck here at the gas station. We will now go over to our fuel economy screen. Go up to trip 2. And zero it out. So there you have it, all zeroed. And now we will hit the road. Okay, just pulled out of the gas station. On the road now. Let me start by talking to you about the test and the conditions. First of all, it is unseasonably warm today. The truck says that it is 7 degrees Celsius and it's supposed to be in the middle of winter. Now, outside of that, I am currently headed for a 400 series highway. That's a major highway here in the province of Ontario. Speed limit is 100 kilometers an hour. I'm gonna run at 110 kilometers an hour with the cruise control to make sure I get some good highway miles in. And then once we're up the highway a little bit, I'll hop off and I'll work my way back to where I started on secondary back roads where the speed limit is slower, closer to 80 kilometers an hour. That's 50 miles per hour. But of course, on the back roads, there's also lots of small towns with slower speed limits, stop signs, so lots of stopping and starting. So I do my best to get a mix of driving. And heck, even right now, I'm coming through the city to get to the highway. So a little bit of city mixed in there too. So by the end of this, we should have a decent cross-section of driving, which should give us our fuel economy number. Now, one of the reasons I wanted to do this test is I suspect that this Tremor as it sits is one of the least efficient Super Duties that you can buy for a couple of reasons. The first one, maybe the most obvious one, the tires. 35-inch Goodyear Wrangler Duratracs. That's a lot of rubber that the truck has to spin, plus they have an aggressive tread. So yeah, having those tires means that you're gonna suck up more fuel. And then because we have the Tremor, this truck has a 2-inch front end lift, so the nose is up in the air, plus the air dam, which is normally up there, has been made way smaller. So all of those things should come together to mean this truck is pretty thirsty, but that's exactly why we're doing this test. So we're gonna hit the highway right now, and then yeah, we'll be able to look at the numbers when we're done. And I am merging right now onto the on-ramp. And I don't like to kick it too hard for the sake of the fuel economy test, but this is a good chance to feel the power. Here we go. And it is powerful. Even in this big F-250, the thing jumps up to speed, no problem. The V8 sounds so good here. Like I said, I didn't want to floor it, so you might not have heard it, but trust me, the throaty growl from this V8 is absolutely excellent. Now, there's one other aspect of this truck that I have to mention, and it's the axle ratio. So the rear end axle ratio is a 430, and that is also thanks to the Tremor package. So we're getting the bigger tires. Ford also re-gears the truck then to make sure that the torque is there to spin the tires. But a 430 axle ratio is absolutely not favoring fuel economy either. It is favoring putting that power to the ground. So that's also going to play a role in the number that we end up with today. All right, folks, as we drive along here, of course, now I want to talk to you about how this F-250 Tremor actually rides down the road. I mentioned some of the changes already, the larger tires. We're also getting a totally unique suspension setup here, so different shocks and different spring rates. So the truck definitely rides differently than a standard F-250. And I'm here on a back road right now. It is paved, but it's a little rough. A couple broken spots in the pavement, like right here. And yeah, I would say that the Tremor does a better job than a stock F-250 at soaking some of that stuff up. Now, it's still a heavy-duty truck capable of towing 18,000 pounds, so it's still quite a bit stiffer than most of the half-tons today or most of the other trucks on the market. But as F-250s go, the hits, they just don't feel as sharp. They feel almost rounded off, if that makes sense. They feel a little softer rather than getting that sort of sharp hit you can get out of a really stiffly sprung HD pickup truck. So on road, I like the ride of the Tremor. Power, I already mentioned, is really strong out of this V8. These tires, the Duratrax, they are noisy tires, and that is coming through to meet in the cab, so definitely some road noise that you have to deal with. But overall, the cabin is still quite well insulated. Other noises, wind noise, stuff like that, has not been a problem. Now the truck I'm in here today is the Lariat, and it has a load of options that have been added onto it. So this thing is quite luxurious. I have a massive head-up display, wireless phone charging, an upgraded B&O sound system, of course a big touchscreen, plus a fully digital gauge cluster up here in front of my eyes, and all of Ford's semi-autonomous drive systems, including their lane keep system, which I'm going to try to put to work right now on a side road. And it is working. I'm on a side road, but the lines are clearly painted on either side of me. And I have some positives and negatives about this system. On the positive side, like a lot of them, it does a nice job. Like, this is a side road with kind of faint lines. It identified them right away, and it does. It sticks me basically right in the middle of this lane. But here's my issue with, and again, this goes for a lot of systems, not just Ford. If I lightly rest my hand on the wheel, but I still allow the system to do its job, so essentially I'm allowing it to drive, but I'm just here for backup, I get a message that just popped up again: keep your hands on the wheel. The truck doesn't know that my hands are on the wheel, which means I have to go out of my way to put input into this wheel to remind the truck that I am here. And this speaks more to, again, this weird gray zone that we're in with autonomous driving. I am still the driver. I am still 100% responsible for what happens to this vehicle, even if Ford's semi-autonomous drive system was responsible for the crash or partially responsible. So that means, yeah, it's all on me. And because of that, Ford has to put that message in there. They have to remind you, hey, keep your hands on the wheel. You're not allowed to do this. You're not allowed to just let the truck drive for you. And I'm okay with that. I just hate this weird middle zone we're in right now. If you're gonna drive for me, truck, then drive for me. If you're not gonna drive for me, then don't. So this is a personal feeling. If you turn the system on, it does its job well. So that's one thing I want to make clear. But my personal feeling is you should drive the vehicle yourself, especially because I turn it on and then I just constantly get annoying messages about touching the wheel. It's counterintuitive that when I'm using your system, you're constantly bugging me about keeping my hands on the wheel. So with all that said, I don't use any of these lane keep systems anymore. I turn them off right away. I just find them to be overbearing and annoying and not a necessary part of driving. But do you own a new vehicle? I'd be really curious to get a conversation going in the comments. Do you leave the lane keep on, or do you shut it off like me? I'd love to hear your thoughts. One last note before we get back to the gas station, folks. And you know what? I actually decided to drive a little bit further than I normally do today, so we're getting some extra distance in, which is always nice for a fuel economy test, right? My one last note is to just talk about gas versus diesel, and some of the obvious old truths, they're still out there. Things like, if you're towing heavy, a diesel just has better characteristics for doing that, not to mention better fuel economy. And empty, the fuel economy thing applies too. I mean, I know it's not apples to apples, but you probably saw I recently did a fuel economy test with my dad's new Chevy 3500, and that thing, I don't want to spoil it yet, but it's going to get significantly better numbers than this truck today is going to get. So that's just one example. But in general, yes, the diesel will always save you fuel. Now, though, I want to talk specifically about the Tremor, because in the off-road truck, it is about power and torque, but it's a lot about weight as well and weight distribution. Now, I've had the chance to drive a gas and a diesel Tremor back to back, and the diesel torque felt great, but I didn't like it enough to excuse the fact that the nose of that truck feels so heavy. Going from the gas to the diesel, it's immediately apparent that your front axle is just carrying that much more weight. So you're coming down off of rocks and obstacles and you just feel the front end really smash down. And for that reason, unless you truly needed the diesel for one of those things I just mentioned, I would go gas every time if going off-road often is one of your goals. If that's your usage case, that you got to take this thing into some really gnarly back roads and trails to get into a job site or something like that, I recommend the gas simply for the weight savings. Alrighty folks, getting ready to pull back into the gas station right now. And the drive was exactly as I described. We did about half on the highway at between 110 and 120 kilometers per hour. And then coming home, it was all side roads and back roads. So between 80 and 90 kilometers an hour, but with lots of stopping and starting. And the temperature is up to 10 degrees Celsius. It just keeps getting warmer today, which is pretty wild. But that's definitely helping the fuel economy compared to what it was when it was minus 10. One other important aspect I did not mention yet is that I have been in eco mode. I do have drive modes here. I put it in eco. Essentially all that's doing is dulling the throttle response, so it's not going to change your fuel economy when you're going down the highway, but coming off the line, it kind of forces you to take off a little bit slower. So that was helping me as well. And now here are the numbers, ladies and gentlemen. The computer reads 16.5 liters per 100 after 137.8 kilometers. And you know what? 16.5 liters per 100, to be honest, is basically exactly what I would expect from this truck. It's not a great number. It's pretty thirsty, but considering we have 35s and all those other things I mentioned, yeah, 16.5 is exactly where I thought this would be. Now we'll go fill it up and we'll do the math ourselves and see how that compares to the computer number. Filled up, now let's do the math ourselves. So we take our 19.387 and we divide that by 137.9 kilometers multiplied by 100, and we end up with 14 liters per 100. So yes, doing the math suggests that this thing was pretty good and a lot better than what the computer says. Now I realize doing the math myself, it's not scientific, it's not a perfect representation. So what I like to do is kind of pick a number in the middle. This truck will probably get around 15 liters per 100, which for the power that we have, over 400 horsepower, the tires, the lift, that number actually seems pretty reasonable. Alrighty folks, we are coming to the end of this video. Now first of all, I have to tell you, we have a full off-road video on this Tremor here on the channel. So make sure you go check that thing out if you want to watch this truck get buried in the ice and the mud. The verdict here today, to me, is that this engine, the big V8, it performed exactly like I expected, but it's thirsty. I mean, surprise, surprise, right? Big heavy truck, big V8, big displacement, also is gonna mean big fuel bill. And of course, that's running empty. If you put a trailer on this truck and it can tow just over 18,000 pounds, well, you can only expect that fuel economy to get much, much worse. But HDs are not rated by the EPA, so I always feel like these tests with heavy-duty trucks are the most important to try to get these numbers out there. So yeah, that's it for this one. Now please, I want to hear from you. Go in the comments, share your thoughts on the fuel economy, the Tremor package, the style, the luxury, anything you want. Please let me know how you're feeling and what you're thinking. And yeah, while you're down below, don't forget to hit like, hit subscribe, hit join to become a member of our channel, and then come right back here to Truck King to see what we're testing next. See ya.